You see the recent reports that apparently the CIA had a contractor go into the Uruguayan embassy in London,
Ecuadorian.
and Ecuadorian embassy, excuse me, and put in cameras and sound. And one of the contractors, I guess, was so disgusted that he you know went to an outlet and revealed this. So because they said it was just cameras. They told I guess the Ecuadorian embassy, but it was actually sound and everything. And now they're using this apparently in the extradition hearings. And also that they're trying to there were attempts to poison him as well. I don't know how true that is, but this is there's a lot of implications for what happens if Assange is extradited and is tried under the Espionage Act here and put away for the rest of his life. It really is going to obviously have a chilling effect on journalism. It already has.
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, they're not even talking about the hearing.
Yeah, there's also stuff recently. Assange's mother, Christine Assange, on Twitter has been saying that the FBI in UK stole all the legal defense docs in Ecuador embassy after he was dragged out. So it's, I mean, crazy.
Well, Ecuador is basically a CIA client state in South America. Yeah. So when they had a change of leadership, basically that's when his protection expired. You know, that they were able to enter the embassy and forcefully remove Assange.
Well, I think a few billion from the IMF also kind of.
Yeah, that's how it works.
It was a result. It was a result of the fact that WikiLeaks was exposing Ecuador, even though he was seeking asylum in the Ecuadorian embassy, and they threatened him. They said that if he comes out with this information, or WikiLeaks, because obviously he was, he barely had internet. Like, I mean, this man was being tortured while he was in this little apartment for almost 8 years. Okay, where he only got the sunlight that he got was just going out to the balcony. And he was still being spied on by all these people. It was UC Global was a Spanish security firm that was they were contracted by the CIA to, like you were saying, to spy on Julian Assange, and essentially they spied on even everyone that went there and visited him. They complained about having their phones being hacked into, because they had to give in like their passwords and a lot of this stuff. They had surveillance in the restrooms, especially in the women's restrooms, because they were trying. Like, Assange was not able to communicate with his lawyers in private, which he should be able to, right? You should be able to speak to your counsel in private, and they were trying to get around that by talking in the bathroom, and then they found that out, and then that's when it was found out, or that's when they started bugging the restroom, and they did such despicable things and I think this was the turning point for I believe it's David Morales. He's the CEO of UC Global. He came out. He just couldn't take it anymore when they wanted to steal the diaper from Assange's. It's I guess not his baby mama. That's how you would say. She has 2 children with Assange, and in order to, but they didn't know that. Nobody knew that it was a big secret that he had fathered these 2 children. And in order to get the DNA, they wanted him to steal the diapers of the kids. So they warned her not to change the diapers. And it was really because they wanted to get the identity of his lover, or his significant other, to, I mean, essentially blackmail her, I guess. But yeah, it's really crazy what they've been doing.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if it registered. I wasn't talking about Ecuador. I'm saying that in the UK, when they dragged him out, apparently the Ecuadorian embassy allowed the FBI to go in and grab his defense material.
Right.
Which is just, I mean, that's horrific. Yeah, he went through this 8 years of torture, and then he can't even have like a fair defense because they stole his materials.
You okay there, Daisy?
Oh yeah. Sorry,
okay,
I just
good.
needed to get some water.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we know what the crime he really committed, right? Was exposing the crimes of the whatever you want to call it, the war, the war state, basically. I mean, it was not. I mean, they're trumped up, to use an unfortunate word, but trumped up charges basically because they couldn't get him on. But he basically doing what like the New York Times just did with revealing some of Trump's tax returns, right? I mean, it was basically the same type of thing, but the New York Times gets away with it. But this now would set a precedent. So like there would, if you had a future Daniel Ellsberg with the Pentagon Papers, they might, be more hesitant to although I doubt it, somebody like Daniel Ellsberg, but people are going to know that there's a lot more serious consequences than maybe in the past.
And I do want to thank Tulsi Gabbard for introducing HRES 1175 with Thomas Massey. Oh my God, a Republican. Oh, she's doing that bipartisan thing again, that calls for dropping all charges and efforts to extradite Julian Assange.
Well, Pompeo's been going after this thing, and it's like when I saw the debate, I was thinking these people are so stupid because like Trump, all he has to do is say I support freedom of journalists, and I'm gonna support Assange being pardoned if he's brought. I think these charges are not fair. If he did that, he would get so much support. And if Joe Biden just said I support Medicare for all. Even if you don't really support it, just say it, just mouth the words. You'd get so much support. But they're so beholden, or not. But Biden is beholden. But I think they're just not. They don't know. They're not in touch with the popular sentiment.
But I think it's important to highlight that what the wrongdoings that are the crimes that are being committed against this man. First of all, he spent almost 8 years locked up in this like 2-bedroom apartment or office.
Well, he was free to leave.
Well,
he would be arrested.
Right, well, but he was trying to escape. He sought political asylum, right? And it was based off of the fact that they were trying to, put these rape charges against him, or he had these rape charges against him from Sweden, right? Who they have been dropped, right? And now he's in Belmarsh Prison, which is it's considered like the Guantanamo Bay of the UK. All right.
Well, they got the serial rapists and everybody in there. It's like the worst offenders are in there.
Right. I mean, they have him in like solitary confinement. You know what I'm saying? Like he is really being tortured. And the reason why he was put in Belmarsh was because when they entered for the first time, I think, right, that they entered an embassy. They allowed the police to enter an embassy to take Assange out. And he's been serving this time because he evaded justice, right? And he was sentenced to, I think it was like 2 years, right? Or 50 weeks. 50 weeks is what he was sentenced to. Guess what? He served that. Why is he still being locked up when he is not an American citizen? Okay, there is no reason why he should be tried under the Espionage Act. He is not an American citizen. Period. He did not hack this information, and what they're trying to say is that he helped Chelsea Manning hack this information. That's what they're trying to bring this all up on.
Well, the argument is that the crime was committed on American soil, which you can easily do with, you can say electronically this happened, digitally this happened on American soil, so therefore he broke the law under, they'll make whatever argument. But I mean, then again, the real crime is not the Espionage Act. The real crime is you exposed our crimes.
Right. And recently it came out that the CIA was absolutely considering assassinating him.
Didn't Hillary Clinton call for that? Like she calls for everyone's assassination, obviously.
Yeah, she said something. I think they say it was a kind of a joke, but she said something. It was along the lines of maybe a drone could take care of that or something like that.
Yeah.
Right. We
Yeah.
came, we saw, we
But if
killed.
somebody said that about her, oh my
Right.
God.
Right. Yeah. Crazy.
It's a damn
so,
shame.
So the current status of it was like, was it January 4th or something is going to be the decision on Assange?
And apparently
Whether
the judge in England who has a very strong anti I don't know whatever it's not expected to go favorably for Assange. Her based on her ruling history that he will probably be extradited. It just seems to me that Trump is no better than Biden in this regard in terms of how they would treat Assange. That I mean, for Assange, I don't think it's going to make that much difference who wins the election for his fate. Unfortunately,
but Trump has, and I don't know if you guys saw it, but Jimmy Dore actually did an interview with Max Blumenthal. And Max Blumenthal just did an expose where he talked about this. So what he shows, or Max Blumenthal, he's been talking about this connection between Sheldon Adelson and like going against Trump, and Sheldon Adelson was actually funding like this CIA type of a program or operative spying on him. So he was the one who was paying for this contractor, UC Global. And obviously Sheldon Adelson was the mega supporter of Trump. And I mean, he can be credited as having gotten him elected, right? And so it's seen almost as though Trump has to, that's really why Trump has been doing, well, him and Pompeo, obviously, because Pompeo is a fucking asshole. But I have such disdain for Pompeo. But he's obviously just, he doesn't care. Like Trump doesn't care about this, and that's why he's even floated around. Oh yeah, maybe I will pardon Snowden, or I will pardon. Well, Chelsea Manning's already, thankfully, been pardoned. But I mean, they obviously are just doing the bidding of their donors. It's not anything that has to do with Assange, right? It's personal vendettas. It's like you've been saying, it's a big club, we ain't in it, and they're just playing their little games with, getting back at each other.
Well, I'm questioning, like, to what extent do we think, like, if I Google right now Julian Assange and look at the news link, you've got the usual, like the Intercept, Al Jazeera, the Guardian, and the wire services that say anything. The last time I can see that the New York Times reported out was like 4 weeks ago. I mean, can we just like assume that 90% of the news services we get are basically controlled by the CIA and deep state, and basically, we're screwed.
No, and not just that, but honestly,
we hear you, Steve.
The one thing that if you read any of the articles, if they actually give an honest like depiction of what's going on, of his trial, of his hearing, and all this kind of stuff, they always have to mention, like, what did he do wrong? They'll say what he is being charged with, but then they'll say, well, in the 2016 election, he leaked the emails, and and he helped Russia, hack, and
right.
All of the, like, they have to put that in there. What does that have anything to do with it? It doesn't have anything to do with the crime.
They're painting him as pro-Trump. They're painting him as pro-Trump, but he's obviously, if you look at the whole picture, I mean, he was requesting, Wikileaks was requesting, anybody has Trump's tax returns, you can send them right here. So it wasn't like he's an equal opportunity whistleblower. He's not just revealing things about Democrats. He looked for wherever there's corruption or cover-ups, he's going to offer to reveal it through WikiLeaks. So to paint him as just a pro-Trump, anti-Hillary figure is just totally bizarre. I mean, there's no support for that.
Right.
Right.
Well, it's always the argument that I always heard was, well, why didn't he put out any information about Trump? Or why doesn't he put out any information about
Yeah.
Russia?
And
And
he
if you
has.
actually go
He
to
has, right?
Yeah.
WikiLeaks, you
Right.
can see
Yeah.
all the information.
Right.
Yeah.
Hello, when he was
Yeah.
seeking political asylum
Right.
in the Ecuadorian embassy, they were revealing information about the Ecuadorian government, about corruption in the Ecuadorian government. Hello, like that argument falls flat on its face, but it's just an easy way to just dismiss it. And it's like what we've talked about before, that they always choose these figures that it makes you feel like it's okay for us to do this to them because of X, Y, and Z.
Right.
But then eventually those rules, they get bent a little bit, and then until it affects you, and then suddenly it becomes a problem. Like the whole thing of how all of these protests are just, they're fueled by Russia. I mean, it's Russia, man. Like there's no, everyone here in the United States is absolutely happy. Okay. We love everything that's going on. No one is getting kicked out of their homes. No one's losing their jobs. No one, like everyone is just happy as can be. And Russia is just putting out this disinformation, you know, about these protests and making them riot. Like, I mean, I don't know.
Well, I mean, just like there was, CIA attempts, and this has been, corroborated, attempts to control the media, like in the 60s, whatever. Project Mockingbird, and I think Jack Anderson was a CIA asset, and these famous, journalists during that period, and then up to today, obviously, and then it's just a natural progression for them to say, well, okay, now we got to control Facebook, we got to control TikTok, we got to control
Sure.
Twitter, right? Because these are the powers that be, and then we're going to try to restrict other platforms, and the internet, remember the first days of the internet was like the Wild West, when basically anything went, and then it gradually it's become more and more established and less free, and most people don't want to do the work. They don't want to do the footwork to actually research the topic. So when you defend Julian Assange, they say, well, what about the emails? He was supporting Trump and everything, and then
it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. This man is being tortured.
Well,
he's being tortured.
It's relevant because that's what they know. That from watching the evening news, that's what they know, and that's what they parrot back. And that it's relevant for the situation because most people won't support Assange because they.
But think about it. If you really think about that argument, they're literally torturing this man.
I know
because he leaked emails. You literally think because of the 2016. If you really have that rationale. I'm not saying that that's what it is, but if they have that rationale that because he leaked these emails that hurt Hillary Clinton and got Trump elected, that's why he deserves to be tortured, that's fucked up.
They're banking on people that they don't care. Because people like, how many journalists are there like Julian Assange? There's like Max Blumenthal, there's Julian Assange, there's like Chelsea Manning, there's like, you can probably count them on, I don't know, there's probably like in the hundreds, and there's like, how many journalists are there, like racial, not journalists, but like personalities that are on the evening news, and it just, read whatever is given to them. And that's what people listen to. It's just not, people don't care about the journalists because they're not affected by that personally, or they don't think they're
But even the at least what I was seeing on the Max Blumenthal interview is that recently it's come out in the hearing that because there's two, I guess, whistleblowers from UC Global that have come out, and they said that they were spying on like the head of the New York, like some editorial in the New York Times, and like so people that these journalists that they work for these propaganda rags, they also have been spied on, and they don't care about that. Obviously,
they're not complaining about it.
Obviously,
because they don't want to lose their job, their cushy job, and they're like, they get to schmooze with whoever, at these parties and stuff. They don't want to lose that. So to them, that's more important than the ideals of journalism. They don't want to be lose their job or potentially worse, go to jail and be held in solitary confinement. Who wants that?
Even though they published the information, the same information that Julian Assange is being tortured for publishing now, they published the same information, and they are sitting pretty at home, not having to worry about anything, because Julian Assange is taking the fall for this. But eventually, it will come to them.
Because the New York Times is under control and to a large extent, whereas WikiLeaks is not.
I mean, most people are scared of the obvious examples of power that happen out there, right? So you basically had, Tulsi is one example. Basically, take a Swiftboat, a veteran who's, basically talking about peace and all this kind of stuff, and attack her as being a Russian agent, and then everyone obviously without proof just piling on because the establishment doesn't like you, we're going to keep pushing a message against you. Or Cheryl Atkinson, who had been a reporter, right, who the Obama administration went after her and bugged her laptop and all this kind of stuff, and she's basically been made an example of, if the Obama administration shuns you and CIA goes after, we're not going to support you.
Wait, who bugged whose laptop? They bugged Tulsi's laptop?
No, Cheryl Atkinson.
Oh, Cheryl Atkinson.
Yeah. So basically, there are these people out there that have been made examples in the political sphere and the journalist sphere, right? And as it's the same, obviously, with Assange, that everyone else is going to just cut you loose. You're going to be completely lose your life.
Well,
if you do the wrong thing.
Again, Marx comes to the rescue because the material conditions, the actual economy, the actual people have to survive. They have to have a place to leave. They have to be able to, raise their children. That's the reality. And so you can try to manipulate all these things as much as you want, but the reality is there, and eventually people will wake up based on the reality, and they'll be like, they keep telling us that the emperor has clothes and the emperor doesn't have clothes. That's what it's, it's just a question of when it gets to that point that people actually wake up. And I think some of Trump has utilized that, and people are, quote unquote, waking up from their dogmatic slumbers to some extent, but they're not really. I think they're just going for anybody who's against the current system, but they're not really, it's not sophisticated enough. But I think that's coming. That's coming.
And the whole system, part of it is to, I think they throw out false conspiracy theories and all sorts of stuff out there. So you don't know what to believe. I mean, most of the average person is going to throw up their hands, right? How do you possibly figure out what's truth in this, crazy world of Epstein's pedophilia island? And insane. Trump as president is just like the world's insane, right? So how do I know? How do I?
It's cognitive dissonance. You had Dennis Hastert, who was the Speaker of the House, right? Who basically was molesting, 12-year-old kids when he was a coach, and this stuff came out. Like, this is a guy who was in line to be the president, and he's like molesting kids, and there's like a connection, there's a connection between that and Epstein and Bill Clinton. And people who are sociopathically, utilizing their power as leaders, to whatever their crimes they're committing, and that's to me, that's the people they see that, and they say, oh, that's just a one-off thing. That is not really making the connection that. And I think some of the Trump supporters, they make the connection kind of at a subconscious level, and maybe they're not very sophisticated about it, but they see the system is broken. We have to overthrow the system, right?
Right.